Hello, everyone. Welcome back for part 2 of The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. We are joined by Nicole Wordsmith and Jordan to take up the second installment of our conversation. I'm going to do a quick overview of what we covered last time and tidy up some loose ends. And then Nicole has a presentation of her own that we'll be contemplating on the back half of this particular video. It will be a thought experiment. To determine whether or not, or at least she's going to, from what I understand, make the case that we are perhaps already in the underworld and maybe want to bring that conversation in with the text, The Great Divorce. So welcome back, ladies.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think from what I can tell, the video that we did last week was pretty well received, and I just wanted to build on some of the momentum. Did you guys want to have anything that you wanted to start with at the outset, or should we just kind of skip ahead to the slide that we left off with?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's just go.
Yeah, I was just going to tease up. We have a whole other presentation put together by Nikki that we'll be going through. It's pretty wild, so you'll definitely want to stick through to that portion.
All right. So, briefly, if this is the first one that you're talking about, or if first one that you're joining us on, we contemplated the relevance of the schema that C.S. Lewis has provided us in The Great Divorce, where we have individuals that are in a town of perpetual daylight, or twilight, I should say, who are making their way to a bus station, a bus that presents them with the opportunity to proceed to heaven or a deeper heaven, depending on the choice to really accept Christ. Although that's not really drummed into us so much from the very beginning. There's just this emphasis on choice, but they have to repent and believe, and ultimately they are allowed to move forward. And we look at a variety of different characters. There are some that I have outlined here, such as the Episcopal priest and the artist, who I found particularly interesting, given my own proclivities, or I should say. But there are a variety of other different characters who do not seem to progress past this cleansing, choice-driven purgatory that Lewis presents to us from his high Anglican perspective, because there's something of the world that they are still holding on to, be it lust, reputation, intellectual play, things of this nature. So I think that really encapsulates the project that Lewis is doing here. But of course, it presents all sorts of issues that I brought up in the last video, because, as a Protestant, and someone who's beloved by evangelicals, he's introducing a theology that may be alien to most Protestants who do not believe in purgatory. And then at the same time, he's alienated from Roman Catholic purgatory, where it's kind of based more on sin and the purification of that. It's already those individual souls that are in purgatory are already saved, but they have venial sins to get rid of. Whereas individuals who may not even be saved are in C.S. Lewis's purgatory, and they are still allowed kind of second, third, fourth chances to make things right. So I think that kind of captures the essence of it. Do you ladies want to add something before we go through the slides?
I think you captured a lot. I think you're doing good.
Okay. All right. So, Jordan, let's see. I think maybe let's just take it. If you could just progress them one at a time. I think, okay. Yes, we talked about this is maybe we go back to that George MacDonald slide quite quick. It would be slide 7, if you could do that. I mentioned this last time, but George MacDonald was one of the major influences on C.S. Lewis's thought. There are a variety of other thinkers that we see that are influences on Lewis. We see like Lewis Carroll, which is also interesting to me. You've got these two Lewises going on here. But George MacDonald was a Scottish pastor, and what he was, this idea of like universal salvation that it interpenetrates a lot of The Great Divorce, came from George MacDonald. I guess it's called like remedial universalism. And C.S. Lewis was so enamored with this particular character that he put together this anthology on George MacDonald that's featured here. And Jordan, if you could go to the next slide. Where are we?
Was he a real person?
Oh, yeah, he's a real person.
Oh, and that's, yeah. I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, if we want to go back to it real quick, I mean, all I'll say is that he very much, that there's a lot of literature. I mentioned this, like there's like Dante's the Divine Comedy and the Inferno, the Purgatorio, the Paradiso, that George MacDonald kind of is like a Beatrice, like psychopomp underworld guide. Although we find out that a lot of what's going on in The Great Divorce is happening in a dream. So it's not so much that it's happening in the hereafter. We're given a glimpse, a vision, and that's something that's going to be really very relevant. Some new information that I want to introduce today in the time that I have allotted is something that's particularly interesting to me that I didn't have time to prepare for in part one, is trying to understand the relationship between time and eternity and what this glimpse into purgatory and the afterlife affords Lewis. I think I have a grasp on it, but I think there are things that are perhaps incoherent from within time, not necessarily metaphysically, but there's just going to be things that are going to be mysteries. And George MacDonald is very clear as the character George MacDonald in this text. Lewis makes sure to emphasize that, it's kind of a fool's errand to understand the metaphysics of time and eternity. What's really important is understanding the drama of the choice to progress. Okay, so let's see, maybe slide 8. And since we're on the topic of Dante, the difference between The Great Divorce and Dante's Divine Comedy, typically we see realms of hell and purgatory as places where punishment is exacted upon individuals for the sins that they created for themselves on earth. Whereas in The Great Divorce, we see a lot of what's going on is psychological torment from the still holding on to something that is ungodly, that is still egocentric, that is still selfish, like I alluded to earlier, whether it be reputation or provocative opinions that you think are your own, or lust or something of that nature. So that's we're getting different views of the afterlife here when we compare and contrast Dante with Lewis. But I do hope that we cover the Purgatorio at some point in this series on purgatory and simulation. I don't know if either of you has any experience with Dante.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's quite a wild read.
Okay. Cool. If we could go to slide 9.
That movie Heretic that just came out went into both like Dante's Inferno and simulation theory at the same time.
Can you tell us something about this movie Heretic? I don't know anything about it.
That's the one with Hugh Grant and the 2 like Mormon missionary girls come to his house to try to, I guess, convert him, and he ends up like locking them in and psychologically torturing them. And he brings up both of those, but I guess he doesn't really bring up Dante's Inferno, but it's implied in the end of the movie. You can see like I forget. There's like an image that. I'm sorry, I totally forget. But I know at the end of the movie, there was like a scene from Dante's Inferno.
Well, that's super interesting to think about them hybridized in this kind of way. I'll have to do some research into it, and I think that might be something we want to watch. I mentioned this to both Jordan and Nikki. I hope in the future that we could do Vanilla Sky. And look into that. So hopefully,
Vanilla Sky will be a great one. I've already got like a whole 10-part thread started.
Love it.
So
I saw Vanilla Sky when it came out, like the first weekend, and that and Donnie Darko and The Waking Life were like 3 movies that all kind of came out with like in a year and a half of each other, and I was the only person I knew who had seen them. So like I spent like most of the early to mid 2000s trying to convince anyone that would listen to me to watch these films, and like lo and behold, like 25 years later, these are actually films that people like. So I feel like I have like good taste. Like I was like, what's wrong with you people? Why aren't you into these films?
Yeah, there's I still need to watch Waking Life. I think especially that's crazy that I'm in Austin, the capital. And it was set there. But and then when I think of Vanilla Sky, you remember that quote where she kept saying, "I'll see you in the next life when we're both cats."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but do you remember during COVID when they were having those Zoom court hearings and like the one guy accidentally put his filter to be like a cat.
Yes. He's like, yeah, that's unreal. Yeah, I wonder about that. There are a lot of people who are using technology for the first time, like bumbling and putting these filters on themselves. Also, and like kids intruding into the scenes too. I wonder if that's relevant.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I will never get that cat image out of my head. Like, I still crack up.
Yeah, yeah, that is hysterical. Okay, so I just
heard it's like cats, Luke.
Yeah. I just wanted to talk quickly about world historical figures. I thought this was a very interesting thing. This comes up because it is so choice driven, the opportunity to leave hell or purgatory. And we talked a little bit about this in terms of, are hell and heaven just states of mind? I think we get the idea from what Lewis is communicating to us that there's a retrospective action when it comes to understanding what you were in once you've made the decision for eternity. So it seems like all these individuals are going through purgatory and they're getting increasingly solid. They're drawing closer to the deepest reality, which is a fantastic way to communicate what God is. He is the ultimate reality, and everything out from that becomes more of a shadow and a shade, okay, of what reality is. Even, I guess, what we would call earth and hell are far off emanations of the divine. But if we are going through these things and through the variety of different temporal choices that we make, we see all the things that we went through as our path to heaven, and they become retroactively viewed as such. Even if we had a terrible life on earth, if it got us to the point where we ultimately make the decision for God, I think we're somewhat thankful that we went through the thing that we did. Whereas if we do not make that decision, we see everything that is hell and purgatory is like as suffering. And we get back to the quote that I started off, I think last session with, where Lewis talks about how hell has doors that are locked from the inside, implying that we as prisoners can let ourselves out if we make the decision, right? But it's like so many people are tormented and suffering because they're holding on to something. And we see with these world historical figures like Julius Caesar and Genghis Khan, they are so far away from the bus stop. There's like an Alice in Wonderland theme going on here, where hell or purgatory is like incredibly small. It like fits into like a crack, that Jesus has to descend into, right? But also like the given the relativity of the mechanics of how the afterlife work, those world historical figures are incredibly far away from the bus stop that would take them from purgatory into heaven. The closest one that he talks about is Napoleon, and there was some sort of crew that was sent to try to interview Napoleon. It took them like 15,000 years to get there, or something like, or it was like 15,000 kilometers. I forget what the time and space dimensions were. It's real wobbly in the afterlife. But they find him like in a mansion, and he's just pacing back and forth, blaming all these other people for the failures that he had in battle. And he's just stuck there, illustrating the idea that we are, because we're not taking accountability and making the choice, we are the ones stuck in the cycle of hell. And the longer we do that, the further we spiral away from the bus stop or the mechanism or the vessel that will take us to heaven. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
To overfixate on not the main point you just made, but you're talking about Yeshua like coming into the like tiny little crack into the realm.
Yeah.
It just made me think about when we were going through the Gospel of Luke and discussing, at least how things are laid out in the Bible. Like, he didn't know everything. He had to learn things. And so maybe part of that is like coming into this realm requires one to shed aspects of the bigger spiritual body. And maybe we all do that to some degree or in our own unique way. But that might, I don't know, it kind of like touches on why Yeshua like incarnated into human form would as a child have to study these things. Like, it obviously he picked it up more easily than someone else, but
that's a huge topic. And it seems in one of the things I want to talk about with time and eternity is like trying to understand what seems to be like our immortal soul in relation to the temporal choices that we make. He has this chessboard analogy I'm going to get to.
Yeah.
And I think what you're talking about when like Jesus, there are things that Jesus didn't know when he entered into reality. There does seem to be, I guess it's the question of like two minds. Like, is there something that God the Father knows that Jesus himself does not know? Like where he talks about, I think like before he's being crucified and he asks whether or not like this burden, or if this, I forget the expression. I think he used this cup could pass from him or something like that. Like kind of asking God, can I still get out of this? And you think if Jesus is God, wouldn't he know that? That sort of indicates that there's something that God the Father and Jesus don't share, a piece of knowledge. But of course that could be, so people have explained that as like, that's like Jesus's human nature, like overcoming his divine nature, which is going to be relevant when we talk about the nature, the nature of eternity coming in contact with time. So I just want to bracket that, and we'll come back to it shortly. We'll get there probably in 5 or 10 minutes, if that's okay. I think you said yes. You're still muted.
Yeah.
We talk, and if anyone, I mean, I think it's implied in everything I've said before. Like we talked about solidity, and this is going to set up, I believe, how Lewis's depiction of the afterlife kind of tracks with Plato's allegory of the cave. We see that individuals that are in purgatory or hell are these immaterial spirits, and the closer they draw to God as the ultimate reality, they become denser and denser, and they actually have trouble crossing over because they don't have the thickness of form to encounter that deeper reality. And the thing that's necessary, as I've mentioned earlier, is they have to let go of their earthly attachments. And Jordan, if you could go to the simulation or the Plato's allegory of the cave slide, you have to wonder is what Lewis is portraying here in The Great Divorce. Is it just a reformulation of Plato's allegory of the cave? I love this. It's sort of the combination of the astronauts, meme where they're in outer space and they're like the one astronaut has the gun to the back of the head of the other astronaut. But was it all shadows on a cave wall? Always has been. So it's like these ghosts are shadows. And there's a quote, I believe, from MacDonald that I have here on the slide. You can call it the valley of the shadow of life, and yet to those who stay here, it will have been heaven from the first. And you can call those sad streets in the town yonder the valley of the shadow of death, but to those who remain there, they will have been hell even from the beginning. So I don't know. I'm Plato's allegory of the cave is something that's talked about a lot in like the circles that we're in. Did that? I thought I'd just open it up. Did that resonate with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And the cave is also symbolic of the womb, and the matrix means womb, and right. The womb is also a tomb, so it fits both. It fits. I feel like both concepts.
Yeah, I like this, and I think this feeds into the conversation that Nikki and I had last time. It's like where we kind of find ourselves as being Gnostic Christians, I guess, for lack of a better designation. I guess that's kind of what I am, because these concepts are really effective to explain a lot of the bizarre phenomenon that we see in our world. But my more Orthodox Christian friends would always accuse me of integrating New Age teaching or syncretism with Greek philosophy or something else. And the very thing that I used to speak out against with like trying to get some sort of theological purity, I'm reintroducing in the back end by dragging us through these conversations. But so I'm still trying to work that out. It's like, is Lewis kind of committing a new form of that deleterious marrying, or do we need to kind of reinterpret the Bible to understand better these phenomena that we're seeing? One of the things I really appreciated about my study in time and eternity in preparation for this is like how much Lewis hints at the malleability of space and time. And this really felt comforting to me because the Mandela effect is something I'm really afflicted by. It's something that woke me up. And, a lot of Christians are against the Mandela effect because they think it's going to disrupt the Bible or their understanding of God's goodness in the world. But when you think about it, like, when Jesus came into the world, that's the ultimate disruption of space and time. Like that's the ultimate re-rendering of the hologram or whatever we're calling or whatever we're talking about ourselves dwelling in. So why would it be a problem if Darth Vader no longer says, "Luke, I am your father"? Like the ultimate Mandela effect is Jesus Christ, it seems, in some ways.
Right.
So
yeah, Jesus was able to manipulate space and time and like physical laws of this universe, and people can like believe that with no problem. But to like the thought that it might still be happening, like I don't know if it freaks them out or they just can't even fathom that that's the case. But I think a lot of us who have like watched the Mandela effects happening have been able to definitely see it for ourselves. So I don't know, maybe they weren't looking.
I'm curious, Nikki, how did the Mandela effect affect you? Like and I want to get Jordan to weigh in on this as well, but I don't think I've ever asked you this. I think it seems like you acknowledge it. A lot of truthers are really allergic to it, but it facilitated something like an existential death for me. Maybe you were just like, oh yeah, things can change, but I was like, no, this is violating causality. This can't happen. And then that's how I fell down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. I mean, it's very destabilizing, right? Because it means like your memories are maybe false, or the way that you remember things being. And so you don't have kind of like any solid ground base to stand on anymore. But I don't know. I think once you get like just so grounded in God that you can trust, Jesus or God or the universe or whatever it is so much that like, even if they are manipulating timelines and switching out the like whatever games they're playing, and I think the Mandela effect also has to do with us and like sin. I feel like there's a lot of connection between the the location of CERN being near like the Temple of Apollo and Apollyon being the bottomless pit in Revelation 9:11, and so I think like we are under some sort of like divine cosmic justice that allows for that Mandela effect to take place, like regarding like the collective's actions and behavior, like whether they like wind the clock back on us or maybe give us another try. Maybe it's a chance for us to get it right.
Yeah, well, like that introduces the concept of reincarnation into this whole conversation as well. And I just did a video on Stanislav Grof and talking about a reincarnation. I read this book called The Cosmic Game, where there's talk about reincarnation. I'm not necessarily opposed. Gosh, I'm going to get so much slack to this. I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of reincarnation being in the Bible in some places. Like, so I don't know.
Well, when the spirit of like Elijah goes into Elisha, right? Like as soon as he dies, his spirit comes on him, and so what is that, right? It's like that could be considered reincarnation, or like how they thought Jesus was a reincarnation of Moses. It wasn't.
And Jesus said that John was Elijah.
Yeah. So I don't know how it can be so like denied utterly. Like there is like definitely suggestions that that's what's possible.
Well, he was saying that in the Cosmic Game, he was saying that Origen, an early church father, before he was branded a heretic, said that some passages of the Bible only make sense if you talk about them from a point of reincarnation. It may be the ones that we're talking about. It may be others. I think it's probably others, but it's something I want to explore further. Jordan, do you want to weigh in on this?
I want to go back earlier to just the Plato's allegory of the cave and what you were comparing it to C.S. Lewis's kind of imaginative playground of, like things getting bigger and having more density to them, as the fidelity of the information or the like quantity of data points increases, it changes the nature of what we're experiencing into this more like real thing. I thought was really interesting. And I'd never really thought of Plato's allegory of the cave as an example of dimensionality, but now it just seems super obvious but you have the shadow, which is 2-dimensional. There is no 3-dimensional. And then outside the cave, obviously, is more the 3-dimensional world. So it seems to me also like a metaphor for dimensions and how where our focus is or where our consciousness is within dimensions kind of changes. I'd never thought of Plato's cave in that way until you brought all of this up. So I wanted to thank you because that's such a fun idea to play with.
I think I before you said what you just said, I was struggling. I was like, okay, how is this gonna fit into a biblical understanding? And I think if we, like you said, if we have recourse to further dimensions, it's like that book Flatland, right? Like trying to understand. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Can you bring that book up, Jordan?
For sure. It's really cool.
This is a mathematician put together this like Alice in Wonderland type of mathematical exploration called Flatland I believe in the late 19th century. I forget his name, but the idea is like what would like trying to illustrate like what 3-dimensional objects are like when they interact with like a 2D plane, and then kind of extrapolating out from that, if we have something of higher dimensions interacting with the 3rd dimension, the 5th dimension, the 4th dimension, et cetera, et cetera. So perhaps when we're talking about this increased solidity or these other traits that we get when we're crossing out of purgatory into the foothills of heaven or deeper heaven, we're gaining dimensionality, we're gaining attributes. And I feel like that might be a helpful way to understand things, especially when we're talking about like angels and God coming into reality. Like we're just like glimpsing aspects of them and not really perceiving the totality of what they are because we're trapped in time.
Oh yeah. Did you see that post by like Rep Angela? What is her name? Paulina Luna.
Oh yeah. Where she was talking like Enochian angel. We have like sitting people in Congress who are like retweeting stuff about Enochian angels. Like, do you want to, I don't know if you can pull that one up, or I'll send it to you, Jordan. You guys can.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that was a really helpful insight that you brought up there. If you guys want to chat while I search for the or I can just keep going, but
yeah.
Oh, you also asked about the Mandela effect, unless Nikki, there's something else you wanted to say.
No, I was just gonna say I was impressed with you, Jordan, and your thought process there.
Oh.
And you're able to like go back to the past, be like, oh, by the way, what you guys were talking about 5 minutes ago, because my brain like cannot do that. So,
thank you.
Mandela effect.
My Twitter is moving so slow. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it up.
Let me see if I can send it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll probably
if you can put it in the chat. I just want to be mindful.
Yeah. When you asked about the Mandela effect, it's actually difficult for me to remember when I came into contact with that term. I think by the time I came into contact with it, I already believed that consciousness precedes materiality, that consciousness has a direct impact on the material, and the material is not static. So it didn't like, what do they say? Like bake my noodle the same way I think it might have if I hadn't already been reading different kind of spiritual texts and coming into, like I was already exploring meditation and kind of noticing things in my own life react to my own thoughts and consciousness. So the Mandela effect kind of felt like a word for something that I just didn't really have. But on that topic, it's interesting, like which ones I can personally see and which ones I can't see, or like which ones really trigger the collective. It feels like it's a really interesting data point into where our consciousness is at any given point. And almost like when you possibly, and I don't want to like say I'm ascended, I have all the answers. I don't, but it feels like when you're more connected to source, to God, to like the aspect of yourself potentially outside of space time. We're going to talk about the chessboard later and the chess piece and like the player moving the chess piece. It seems like it's easier to keep straight that there are timeline changes happening. Whereas when I reflect on parts of my life where I was much more lost in the sauce, like way more attached to the experience right in front of me without understanding there's like all of these other things happening on a non-physical plane, I was not really able to clock it or see it.
Clock it. I love this
that's
injection
on the timeline right now.
Clocking into the timeline. All right. I'm gonna just keep going because I'm blowing past the half hour here, and I want to be respectful.
But what was the Twitter account? You can just shout out the handle if you remember it.
It's Paulina Luna. She's a congresswoman out of Florida, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, she's like sharing stuff about biblically accurate Enochian angels and whatnot, and them being hyperdimensional and coming into reality. We can skip over the next 5 slides. Can you go straight to 17? I just want those 5 slides in between were just about the different characters in the book, and if someone wants to bring one up, but this is a great little channel that I want to shout out to people. It's called The Great Divorce Project on YouTube. They do these little vignettes based off of the Great Divorce, and it's not the highest art ever, but it decently, good. Yeah, it decently communicates what's in the book. And I particularly like this exchange with the artist who his guide is showing him what awaits him. And he's like, oh, I got to paint this. And he's like, you don't understand. You don't go to heaven to paint it. You go to heaven to appreciate the light that inspired you to paint to begin with. And he's like, oh yeah, that I've forgotten all of that. Like what I'm really interested in right now is novel uses of paint and color and things like that, so I can contribute to a movement back on Earth. And he has this opportunity to go to heaven, to go back and bolster his reputation on Earth, because he's so in love with the material with which he was trying to capture the divine light that first awakened his artistic impulse. And he even at some point, he almost thinks about going to heaven with the guide, because he asked him if there were like famous people in heaven. He's like, well, if I'm going to leave behind my fame on Earth, maybe I can go be famous in heaven. And this guide goes, they're all famous. They are all known, remembered, recognized by the only mind that can give a perfect judgment. So I thought that was like super profound. Like if fame is what you want, which it shouldn't be what you want, but let's just say that's like what your modus operandi is. You can't be more famous than going to heaven, because the only mind that matters knows you intimately, knows everything about you. You are known. Do not worry.
Well, it also almost introduces this concept of fame being a power differential. And does fame have the same effect or kind of juiciness for someone if everyone else has the same level?
Yeah,
it seems like what the attachment.
It's like your mom who goes, I love you all equally. Well, no, I want to be the best. Yeah. So anyhow, Nikki, were there any characters that you wanted to talk about, or were there any ones that resonated with you or identified with, or?
I think just not any particular. Like honestly, I listened to this on audiobook, and I was like traveling, and I was on a cruise, and I was like, they had a lot of personal bullshit going on. So I don't think I really didn't like hone in as much as I wish I could have.
That's okay.
I remember like the mother who had lost her son, and
yes, she was like, she couldn't move past the memory of it and the hurt from that. And if I recall, like the guide is like, don't you remember, like this was God's son, not yours. You didn't even want this pregnancy.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. So
that made me almost tear up.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of singeing. There's a lot of singeing moments in all this. Jordan, were there any characters that you related to?
I mean, I was very fascinated by like the guides and the angel figure, and the woman at the end, almost this like divine feminine archetype who was just like overflowing with love in a way that was not diminishing to herself in any way. It was this true like overpouring, and seemingly attainment of Christ consciousness, and just an example of it in a feminine form. So that, I don't know. I think that was the part where I was most like, not necessarily that's me, but that's like, oh, that's what I want to be embodying and being an example of as much as I can in the world. But there's certainly some gaps in my consciousness to get there.
Well, yeah, it raises a very interesting question. How do the guides become the guides? How do they become solid? And it gets down to this idea of repenting and believing. And it's like, let's just say you can have what I guess in the New Age community would be called something like Christ consciousness or something like that. But it's like, cool, but there's this barrier there first. And what does repenting and believing mean? It's a lot of it's identifying the sin in our lives and choosing to kill it and get rid of it. I think we talked about that last time. Like, we should probably just like make a list of all the the things that, like, the big sins that are holding us back, and just like take that on head on. Maybe that's how we get out of here.
I have a lot of thoughts about what you just said.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, this is like the odds. Gets into the question of like, do you believe, like, what is sin? Like the way that sin is portrayed here, right? It's the love of self in the world. So, broadly speaking, and everything kind of flows from that.
Yeah.
And a lack of forgiveness too, right? There's the overseer who won't let a murderer, I believe his name is Ken, like guide him. He's like, how does someone like Ken get to heaven and become the solid state? But yet I, who like played it by all the rules, like I can't get in. Like, no way, I don't like this game. And he's like so obsessed with, he's like so obsessed with his conception of rights and rules that there's no room to see that even a murderer like Ken can have forgiveness. So there's that too.
That on The Good Place, right? What was his name? Chidi? Wasn't he kind of like that?
Oh yeah,
archetype.
Yeah, because he's like an ethical philosopher, right? And this is the limit.
So rigid that he made everybody around him miserable.
Yeah. Can identify. Right? It's a larger conversation. But yeah, like this is why I ended up studying Kierkegaard, is that Kierkegaard kind of was able to overcome the existential limitations of being so ethical and rule driven and make room for these deeper existential expressions of faith. And a lot of that means like recognizing that there are limits to what our ethical structures can cognize, or what we can cognize via our ethical structures. So, very quickly, just I mentioned this intellectual on slide 18, Jordan. This is just a funny thing. His friend Dick, who I guess got a little funny later in life, taking the Bible seriously and believing in heaven and hell, tries to persuade him to repent and believe, because he's an intellectual apostate, because he comes up with all these different ideas. Like one that he's working on in particular at that moment is that Jesus died as a relatively young man, and had he lived longer, his views would have matured and he would have gotten over all these different conceptions like damnation, et cetera, et cetera. And he can't even this is a big thing. And I think this sets up what Nikki's going to talk about, is that these ghosts don't know that they're dead. They don't know they're in hell. They don't understand, like, they've been shifted into like an alternate reality. And a big part of the conversation is like, don't you know where you are? It's like, oh, do you mean I'm in heaven? Oh, that's a beautiful, optimistic perspective. He's like, no, you're in freaking hell, dude. Like the gray town is hell. Like you with all your like your theological meetings, like talking about these insane ideas about like what would have happened if Jesus lived to be 55, and the theological doctrine he would have come up with. Like,
yeah, why don't you just go talk to him?
Yeah, like you can actually meet God. He's like, oh no, I can't. I have to go back down to earth. I've got this meeting. I've got et cetera, et cetera. So I thought this was I know people like this. So this is crazy. I'm going way over. Let's I just 19 real quick. This is a slide I think we've kind of captured the different purgatory stuff and retrospective choices. I just want to, on slide 20, this idea of purgatory is not confined to the Great Divorce. In Lewis, he talks about it in all these other texts. You can screenshot this right here. Letters to Malcolm of Grief Observed, Mere Christianity. It's everywhere in his book. So not just this one, just the most obvious one. I want to go to slide 21 right now. And I had a chance to read this article a couple times, and I think it gave some clarification on how time and eternity work, but I have so many questions. It's called Choices Along Life's Journey, The Intersection of Time and Eternity in the Great Divorce by William S. L. Isley Jr., PhD. I've got some visuals here. The two biggest things I was trying to understand is he has this analogy where he talks about there are these immovable, motionless giants that are above like a chessboard and a silver table that is time, and that there are these different pieces. And essentially, I think what the idea is, and I'm going to try to communicate this the best I can, is that the choice for eternity has already been made. So you have our eternal souls like outside of the game, but there are a series of choices that are occurring in the temporal realm that are consistent with the character of that eternal soul. I don't know how to really do this because like we have time and then we have eternity outside of time. So it seems like there's like a causality issue, like which comes first. And if the soul is already saved and outside of time, it seems in a way that the pieces on the chessboard would be predetermined. But I think that's kind of what he's saying about the relationship between the choices that we make within time in reference to our soul that is perhaps already saved or not saved outside of time. It's not really moving the pieces. It's kind of overseeing the game in some way. And he has this passage from MacDonald, and MacDonald says, look, this is just a dream. Don't try to like pick this apart. But I'll just read this line from chapter 14. The Lord said, we were gods. How long could you bear to look without time's lens on the greatness of your own soul and the eternal reality of her choice? So this raises very interesting questions about whether or not we have a higher self that is somehow outside a simulated reality that a lot of like New Age people talk about. And this seems to be something that Lewis is pushing via the character of MacDonald. And I was not really expecting that. And I don't think this is the end of the conversation on this particular issue, but it kind of gives us a perspective about how, at least pictorially, how our eternal soul, which is somehow connected to our body, might be interacting between two realms. I have a lot of questions. This whole predestination thing being one of them.
I've been teasing you all week. Like, have you figured out time yet? Yeah. Super interested.
Nikki, do you have anything to add here before I move on to the
I
Jesus?
think you've done that masterfully. But
well, this whole thing, Jesus says you are gods. Like,
right.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
I think ultimately all paths lead to God, right? Like no matter how far you go, like eventually you hit your rock bottom that leads you to start taking the choices that, I think so the choices that you make in that time can lead you farther and farther away. But ultimately you get so far that you like have no other choice but to start coming back up. Eventually like you go into liver failure or something, right? And then you have to you have no choice but to take the steps to bring you back closer to. So it's predetermined maybe that all things eventually do come back. Maybe just in time depends based on the move you make on the chessboard.
Yeah, totally. And this gets into the whole thing of like, in some way, like all evil is going to be overcome by good. This kind of like does bring in the theological problem known as theodicy. Like, you know, we mentioned the character Ken earlier, you know, though I think he was imprisoned and stuff like that, but like ultimately I guess it brought him closer to God when he was punished. I have the particulars of his case like escape me, but ultimately this is God using evil things for good. And I think when you look at the totality of the world, you have to ask yourself why did God include evil in it? Whether it be, you know, from the choices that we make, from lifestyles or murder or something else, or natural evil like a tsunami, or, you know, lately we've been experiencing this Camp Mystic scenario. You know, that's a tough thing, right? Like a lot of people think that's pretty heartless when you talk about stuff like this somehow contributing to everyone drawing closer to God, because you're not the way that Lewis sees it is that you're the murderer, the innocents, the people that are harmed by our actions. Like everybody is going to. He's a universalist. Ultimately, everybody is going to get chances and chances and chances, even after Earth, to go into heaven.
Yeah.
But this offends a lot of Protestant sensibilities, and why I think evangelicals need to, you know, be discerning about this. Why is there even Earth if there isn't like a time test to make a decision for Christ? If you keep getting all these like do-overs, you know, like what's the point of Earth? Why wasn't it just hell and purgatory? And like this gets into a lot of big other theological questions, like why did God even make Earth? You know,
Earth's not the only game.
It was clearly not.
Well, Earth was where Adam and Eve got cast down, right? That's like where they got sent to for disobedience. It wasn't Eden.
Well, the way I understand this, and I could be wrong, is that I tend to think about Earth and Eden being like fused dimensions, and that there was a separation, like where because of the noetic effects of sin, like Adam and Eve could no longer be in Eden, and it had to be disconnected. And that's all and I could be putting my own ideas into this. That's kind of why like heaven will come back down to Earth at the end of time when Earth has been effectively purified.
As we become more solid.
Well, I
mean, there's mixing metaphor, but I'm just speaking specifically to C.S. Lewis's framework. I think talking about solidness and density potentially like is muddy. I'm not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to use his framing.
Sure. All right. Let me if I can go to the next slide, and I'm going to hand it totally over to Nikki and shut up.
Oh, this is cool.
Okay. Yeah. So I just had ChatGPT do this because I was like, I can't draw. So
good job.
All right. What do I want to say about this? I'll just read this passage first from the book. Only the greatest of all can make himself small enough to enter hell. For the higher a thing is, the lower it can descend. A man can sympathize with a horse, but a horse cannot sympathize with a rat. Only one has descended into hell. And will he ever do so again? It was not once long ago that he did it. Time does not work that way when once ye have left the earth. All moments that have been or shall be were or are present in the moment of his descending. There's no spirit in prison to whom he did not preach. So I think the idea here is that God, by becoming man, enters into time and drags like everything closer to eternity. So like people, while they're on earth, have the opportunity to draw closer to Christ and I guess see their earthly life, despite persecution, in a retrospective glance as being a path to heaven, out of earth, through the purgatory, and into eternity back. But also, you know, we talked about this earlier. There's this retrospective thing that if you are not making that choice, you're stuck in the prison of hell. But ultimately, what do I want to say here? Like we got by God is coming into the present reality to provide a way out of earth and a way out of purgatory and a way back into eternity. And it's almost like becoming human on Lewis's view. It like redirects the timeline. It redirects everybody back to eternity. So like prior to this, it doesn't seem like we were properly oriented back to God. And I've envisioned it as like nested different spheres. We have the sphere of earth, the sphere of purgatory, and then the sphere of eternity outside of that. And it doesn't seem like, it seems like each sphere is like dealing with its own sort of time and space. And I guess if I wanted to mix like the chess thing, like we could have like I could have maybe made an image where there are like our immortal souls were like outside of the people playing chess in purgatory and we're like looking down or whatever. Is exactly how Isley like presented it? I don't know, but I think this is close to what Lewis and him are trying to say. What do you guys think?
Well, I think it's like no accident that the letter T stands for time and is a cross.
That
right?
is, yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
Symbolically, like Christ is the cross.
And he's like being crucified on the T, right? Like, so in a way, it's like negating time, right? Like ultimately allowing individuals to escape time into eternity.
Right. And how, like, I don't know, we have all this like goat talk.
Yeah.
And how goat is like the greatest of all time. Like that's the acronym for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I always see the cross as like the intersection of materiality and spirit, which time is the medium that allows that to occur. Like time is the thing that allows us to experience it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, I think I have said all I need to say. I took too long. I'm glad you guys both read it with me. I think it was very beneficial for everyone. Do we want to hand things over to Nikki?
Yeah, let's do it.
And I'll just say I've looked through these slides. I think it's hard to deny what Nikki's putting forth here as a type of thought experiment. I think we really have to ask ourselves, if we could be dead like the characters in The Great Divorce, like how would we know? Like, I sometimes wonder if either of you are like some spirit guide to me, right? Like you guys are like the angels amongst us, who are like, I think Nikki on her Twitter even has herself as like a guidance counselor to the underworld or something, or for the underworld or something like that. Like, and I'm just sitting here like I can't figure it out. Like I'm like the guy on the bus who's like, I must be going back to my discussion, and you guys are like, come with us, like come down. So I wonder if like I'm like really meeting like real life psychopomps, you know? Would you guys tell me if you were
nobody knows? Like we're all actors on this world stage, right? Like no one really knows like our real role. Like, did you ever watch The Office?
Oh, episodically. I didn't watch it religiously, but I've seen a few episodes. Yeah.
There was one episode where like Michael has everybody, like it was about like diversion and inclusivity or something. And he has everybody wear like a sticker on their head of like what race they're supposed to be. And they don't actually know like what race they've been assigned, but they have to guess based on how other people are treating them. And,
yeah, I saw that one. Yeah, I saw that clip. Yeah.
I kind of like in a bizarre like sense, like that's all of us. We all were like assigned like these personas on the world stage, and we don't actually know our true role behind it.
I wonder if we could be guided and guide at the same time. Like,
of course,
like if like we're all like varying degrees of solid, but we're not quite there yet, and we're helping each other out. Like, but we, like you said, like we have total amnesia about our true identity.
Yeah,
I think we can remember.
Well, you know, maybe so. I mean, I know, I'm sure both of you can relate to this. I mean, I think about that. Like, I think about like some people that I interact with who know that like I've kind of gone off the reservation and talk about, I'm interested in more taboo ideas, fringe ideas. I'm like, sometimes I wonder, like, can they even see me? Like the people who like, I almost feel like a ghost sometimes, like how they treat me. And
Yeah.
then
I put a slide in that about shadow bands, right? Like in how the shadows or the ghosts or in the cave, but like we couldn't be seen. We were essentially made ghosts through the shadow band process.
yeah, I don't think like a lot of the people that I try to reach, like I don't think they can. It's like they can't hear me. It's like it.
I've had in-person interactions with people a handful of times that later I realized, oh, they actually couldn't hear anything I was saying, even though physically that makes no sense.
Yeah.
It just feels like we're out of frequency bands. But it's weird that like I can hear that. I mean, maybe I wouldn't know if I'm not processing and rendering them fully because I'm in my experience, but it seems like I can hear them, but they do not hear me.
Well, and they say the truth hurts is because hertz is a frequency, right?
Yeah.
So there's like a double play on that phrase right there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get into it. I don't mean to cut it short, but Nikki's put together a lot here. So, and I'm going to have questions, I know. So,
do you guys, I feel like,
let's go.
The tone of this is so different from like what you just did right there with like the Great Divorce. Like, do you want to do it on a different day? Like, I don't.
No, let's go.
I think it's awesome.
Let's go.
Okay. I feel like it went like totally different direction with this.
Hey, let's just see what happens. You know, like okay. I think when I brought in the Plato's allegory of the cave and Jordan was able to frame it in terms of dimensions, I feel like that was something I hadn't expected. And I'm glad she was able to add that because I feel more comfortable with that analogy now. So I feel like something, even if the tone is different, I feel like something good could come out of this. So let's make it happen.
We all have our own frequency to share.
Yeah, mine's like total just like meme. If I'm reading the signs, like I'm silver linings playbook in it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So I guess let's go. How do we
anything else on this slide? I love how you called viral apocalypse. There are definitely layers to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like because the COVID virus, but then everything kind of like everything became viral or just
I've often wondered if like the whole concept of virality, like I think I started hearing about it like in 2010 or 2011. Like I wonder if that like was in some ways to set us up to embrace like a different sense of virality.
The metaverse, right?
Yeah,
like this
exactly.
Was like really what catapulted us into the metaverse.
Yep. Okay, so I think, just should we go to the next slide? There we go.
Yeah. Okay, so I was just trying to like this is about as academic as I got for you, Luke. This is me trying to set the stage to say like the underworld communicates through signs and symbols and riddles. Like all of the myths and stuff, they have to kind of navigate these labyrinths in their mind. And if you read into some of the ancient myths, they speak in like metaphor and prose and paradoxes and riddles. Like that's how they communicate in the underworld. It's not straightforward. It's not a straight answer. And I feel like a lot of the people on our world stage, like that's how they talk to us, like our politicians and stuff, right? It's always double speak. They say one thing, but it means something completely different than what they're saying. And to me, it's usually something bizarre, right? Or they say something that sounds bizarre and it still means something bizarre, but it's just it's not what we take at face value. Like everything has a double meaning. So yeah, that's how I perceived this presentation was through like the riddles that came to us, and there were so many. This was just like for me the highlights. I could have done like a 700-page presentation if I had the time to be like, and there was this, and there was this. But
yeah, no, and that's why what you do is so interesting to me. I was talking to you on Instagram before we got on here, and one of the things, we had a little bit of a synchronicity because I've been thinking, I hadn't even written this down or communicated to anybody that I wanted to add to our reading list Carl Jung's like introduction or prefatory remarks to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and I had kind of forgotten to put that on our list, and then I was like, oh, okay, here it is on the first slide, you know. So I think that's really awesome.
And well, even just the glyphs, like they're always written in like sign, right? Like picture rather than straight up words. Well, I don't know. Maybe I can't read Egyptian, so I have no idea. But
well, something I'm curious, but before we get into it, how you came to conclude that like we're in the underworld. I don't know what we're in. I've talked about it as being a dream, a simulation, purgatory. I guess personally, if you could kind of walk us through that logic, or maybe it's not a logic, it's just kind of like an obvious, like, hey, look around. This clearly isn't heaven. Look at how insane things are. Look how loaded they are with symbolic meanings. Like, this isn't hard to figure out.
Yeah. For my whole life, I was chronically ill. So I was always wondering, like, how can this be? Like, how can I be like afflicted with such chronic pain and have to like go to this job and live on this Monopoly board and have no one have like any empathy or compassion? And like even like the condition I had, like there was no unemployment benefits or anything. Like it wasn't covered on any scale. And so I was just like so perplexed. Like if this is like this is my one only life and this is how I have to spend it. I just don't understand this place. And then during COVID, I went through the whole like blaming of the world, right? Like, oh, that's why nothing makes sense. It's the evil, it's out to get me. Everything, like I projected all the evil back onto the external, to the controllers or the archons or the elite. And then as I watched like us as a humanity respond to that in the worst ways possible, I realized like, oh, like we are all complicit in the situation that we exist in. And so I started to take it as I started to look at it with like my own sense of responsibility. But just like looking around, right? I mean, my God, like the education essentially makes us stupid. The medicine essentially kills us, makes us sick. The churches, right? They cause division and stir us away from spirituality or connection to God or source. Like everything in this world is an inversion. If you want to do what follows, like if you want to follow your soul and your heart, you pay. Like you don't get money, you don't get paid for that. If you want money, you have to sacrifice the things that actually mean something to you and make you who you are. Like it's just like it's an inversion on every aspect of this world. And like Hades or whatever, it's just a place of suffering. And I see that every day because I have to commute to work. And like you could think of commute as being a life sentence, right? Or you're so
no wonder you're dug in on the car metaphor.
I have had a commute ever since I moved to Austin in like 2011. I never escaped it. I was tried to get closer to work, could never do it.
Given your particular afflictions, I think we talked about maybe last time that do you think we were born in an underworld or purgatorial scenario, or do you think there was like some sort of swap out, like a la Vanilla Sky? I think we talked about. I think I mentioned did I talk about the Mandela effect connected to my name, the whole "Luke, I am your father" thing? Did I bring that up to you guys?
I think
right,
so.
Like, I just to recap it, like people used to say it to me like 3 or 5 times a week. 9/11 happened, and then no one ever said it again. And and that tends to be one of the biggest Mandela effects. So I like wonder if like the world ended on 9/11 and like I've been in the underworld ever since, or if the splice happened somewhere else. How do you feel? Like, I think you may have said that. I think you might have
born into the underworld, like simply by the fact that we're born upside down. Like we come into this world head first, like out of like the nether parts of the body. But I like in terms of like 9/11, and then for me, like COVID was like a real clear like this. Like we descended, right? I think we were always in some type of underworld because it's never like life was like there's always hardship and meanness and stuff in this world. But for me, like COVID was the real like, okay, yeah, we definitely went down a dimension.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like we all go the same places at the same time. You know, I mean, maybe collectively there's a huge step down, but I mean, there's lots of wonderful people, everyone here, like who I feel like are not taking a step down; they're taking a step up. So maybe there are like tiers within it. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, this gets in the whole thing of like how do we get out of here? Like we're obviously all still here, but I wonder if everybody takes a step down or step up. It seems like there are different demographics.
It's a lot of work, but you don't have to be plugged in to the collective consciousness to the degree that most people are. But if you're not aware, then of course, like as people plummet into greater madness, you're going to experience that as well. And just, you know, we have to interact with people in the world who are not necessarily sharing our perspective or views, and it is what it is. But I don't think we have to like give our frequency over to all the things happening around us. But it's hard. It requires mastery, I would say, on Earth to be able to live that way.
Well, we'll keep exploring it. I don't know if we're going to figure it all out in this one session.
That's why we're going to. It takes an individuation, right? But then there's this other level where we are like quantumly connected to each other. Mm-hmm. We all are one. So if we're like fighting with so-and-so about our perspective, we're not like actually getting anywhere. Anyway,
well, that I agree with. Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It's a hard balance to figure out like the difference between the individuation and just like ascending individually, and then like still accepting that we're somehow like chained to all these other people. And so I think about like with COVID, how they kept saying like we're all into this together.
Oh yeah, not me.
Yeah. Or like the government's like No Child Left Behind Act. Like,
oh my goodness.
That's also very much like symbolic of like where we all are. Like we're all fighting it out together until mother or whoever lets us out of the playroom.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great analogy. All right. Well, should we go to the next slide?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, and here is where, for me, COVID was at least a personal apocalypse. I feel like it was probably a global apocalypse, but I can't speak for the entire. Well, I can't speak for the entire flat Earth plane or the entire wherever we are, whatever this place is. But like, it happened in 2020, and 2020 is like has always been a term for perfect vision. Mm-hmm. So for me, just the kind of the revelation, the connection to the perfect vision, and also like the 20th tarot card is judgment, and it feels like that's like the judgment of the dead, and it feels like we all faced a collective judgment at that time. And it was very synchronistic that the campaign for the Republican Party at that time was the Trumpence party. So just reading the signs, like that's kind of what I took away from that.
It's mentioned. You've got this down here in the left-hand corner, the 7 trumpets of the apocalypse. There's always this. Trump even leans into it, like this joke that there's going to just be like he even talks about running like another term after this, like 2028. And then there's like Don Jr. and Ivanka and Eric and Barron. And people are like, oh my God, there's always going to be like a Trump? And then there's in the book of Revelation, there's the talk about the last Trump. And it seems to, I think it freaks a lot of people out because it seems to line up. I think the question that I've always had when considering this is that, is this the reality itself speaking through the symbols, which I'm very much open to. I feel like I'm in like a constant dialogue with reality. Like I blow both of you up like all day long with like all the different like crazy synchronicities that I'm seeing. But like, or it almost seems like so on the nose. Like it seems like it's hard not to get like back into conspiratorial thinking, like that someone's like actually trying to like fake an apocalypse, like make you think that we're here on the timeline when we're somewhere else, and like reintroduce like a Messiah figure or an Antichrist figure to throw us off like where we truly are on the timeline. I don't know.
Or if that's what's been inserted into so many of our subconscious, because there does seem to be not universal, but there is a dominant consensus from my experience within the religious communities of where we are on the timeline. There's certainly people who have counter perspectives that are super interesting. But I think like when I just think about what I grew up around, everyone kind of thinks this stuff hasn't happened yet and we're waiting for its arrival. And if those are the contents of the masses subconsciously, is it simply just a projection of that occurring? Or like you said, is it other people co-opting, knowing that's been the program inserted into the animal mind? So let's show them these images to activate them and trigger people. Or is it just actually happening? Or is it like the underpinning archetypal language of reality just like peeking, like shining through and showing up in these different places synchronistic, like from a synchronistic perspective? Is it a blend of them? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we saw earlier, we were talking about how space and time are malleable. It could be God himself orchestrating all of this, and therefore it's not fake at all. He's like, well, we're going to do this again, play into the programming that's been put in them, which a lot of effort has been put into different religious groups that, the end of the world is imminent.
But I totally, go ahead, Nikki.
Oh, I guess I was just going to say, like, I think we all, or at least many people, experienced a personal apocalypse during that time. Like everything they believed was real, or everything they thought was important in their life, or, like death is just a new beginning, right? Like essentially the death of one thing is just the birth of another. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jordan. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to agree with you. Despite all of the metaphysical possibilities about how and why it happened, I do think what you're laying out here is accurate. And it was a tremendous time of revelation, of seeing more clearly, personally, potentially collectively. It feels like many of us, and still to this day, as they continue to trickle out revelation of the method about this years later, we've all been given a choice. I don't know like how much more in your face some of this stuff can be. And, we make the choice, and maybe that choice is the judgment itself, like how we behave and what we choose to do within these circumstances. That to me is like what judgment is, more so than necessarily like, from an external perspective, being told if our choice was good or bad. Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think for me, if I can just share my own personal feelings about this, I and this is not a contest. I woke up in like 2016. So like,
oh, you're better than us.
So like, it wasn't like this. It wasn't as shocking as I think to me as it was to a lot of other people. I think the biggest thing for me is that I realized I couldn't help anyone anymore. Like I had spent like the 4 years prior to that trying to, in real life interactions, not so much online, but real life interactions. And I think I made an impact, but it was small. And I was just like, oh, like, I don't know if I'm here to help anyone else. This might be about my own refinement. And if someone comes to me and they're struggling to understand something, I'll gladly help them out. Like, I'm clearly like still, that is part of me still there, but like I was very much on fire trying to, be the glitch in the matrix or whatever,
Yeah, I totally get that. Like, and I've wondered the same thing myself, right? Like, I'm here to help people, and really, like, maybe the whole world is conspiring just to like get me to go to therapy, right? Like, I've had to consider that too, like, for me to go get my shit worked out. So,
healer, heal thyself. And we don't have to be perfect to help other people. Luke, earlier you said, what if we're all being guided, but also guides? I think that's totally what's happening. Everyone has a piece of the puzzle probably that's a little bit further than, what we have ourselves. And we have pieces of the puzzle that other people haven't put together yet. And we all have a unique frequency and set of experiences that allow us to reach very specific individuals that no one else can reach in quite the same way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Agreed.
But maybe it's not every time we go to the grocery store handing out pamphlets.
All right. So we can go to the next one.
Sure.
And this was just a quick, like, setting the state. Like, I do think it's interesting that leading right up to COVID, we had like Hadestown and Beetlejuice come on the Broadway scene. And I think Broadway, like, if we're going to, I don't know, I don't want to get too like much in the weeds, but like the Broadway's on like 42nd Street, 42nd goes into there's all sorts of symbology with the number 42. But just in terms of like leading up to COVID, like that, I think it was interesting that those two made it on the Broadway.
I had never heard of Hadestown. What is Hadestown?
Yeah, it's like a musical about Hades.
That's crazy timing.
Yeah, it's like, and it's an interesting soundtrack. Like it sings about. I only listened to it like once or twice, but I just remember like everybody having to work and slaving and no rest.
Maybe that's crazy.
That's interesting.
One day. Yeah.
Yeah, I like too the Beetlejuice. It looks like a prison jumpsuit, or like bars of a prison.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting too that referees like dress like.
Well, I think this has something to do with duality, right? This is the black, and potentially getting back to time itself. When we're getting to the checkerboard, the black and the white, the checkerboard. This whole duality thing goes pretty deep within esoteric circles.
Yeah.
The Hopi sacred clown, I think, looks like that with the black and white, and and duality with the clowns at the life, like the laughing and the crying, and.
Yep. Have you ever gotten into this whole the Nephilim or clowns vein of research? It's so insane to say that out loud, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Should we go to the next one?
Yeah, a lot of these don't need like a ton of like.
It's obvious, right? It's like obvious,
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was weird that we were given like a very exact like 6 foot distance to stay away from each other. Like you're like, why? How did they pick 6 feet? Like why?
Yeah. Why not 6.5 or 8 or 5? Like it's going to be exactly 6.
Yeah, and we've always associated. Like, if we're talking about the metadata or the subconscious, like 6 feet has always been associated with the depth of a grave or like a hangman's noose. And then the flattening of the curve, like that was beaten all the time. 2 weeks to flatten the curve, give it 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And like flatlining is essentially like cardiac arrest, which is myocarditis or whatever. But anyway, that's like flatline is death, right? So we were kind of like asked to help assist in our own flat line.
Right.
So
There's something Saturnian sort of about this too. I think the number 6, if I could be wrong, but I think the number 6 is also associated with Saturn, and therefore we're back in the time consideration again.
yeah, it is 8. Like I think the numbers 8 and 6 are both associated with Saturn. But that doesn't make sense with Saturn being like the harvest, a reaper. Yeah. I mean, and I forgot about Fauci's name means sickle.
Yeah.
That didn't make it in my slides, but it should have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's like so unreal, right? Like it's like his name's Sickle, and ultimately like, yeah.
Yeah, he's always overseeing these like mass casualty viruses.
Jung had this he had a word for this. He talked about it in his book on synchronicity. It's called the compulsion of the name. How people end up like fulfilling the destiny that's associated with their name. And I think about that a lot. They're also called aptonyms, right? And it seems to be like this little recurring like playful puzzle that's in the Matrix. Nikki, I even wondered about your last name. Like I've been so focused on like tree spirits lately. Like if I don't know if that's connected. I was like, I thought about the day. I was like, is Nikki a tree spirit?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't look up the meaning of your last name, but like Jordan's last name, right, is
merchant.
It means she's a merchant, and
merchant.
Well, it's not merchant, but it means merchant.
Wait, what's
Chapman?
Or it's a marketer, isn't it? And she ended up working in marketing.
Yeah.
Totally. I have a whole thread on people's names in this Matrix and how they what's the word? God, I forgot. Anyway, they grew into the names. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go on, Jordan.
Oh yeah. Well, my sister too is like a forecaster. She's an economics background. So we both do like, she's almost dealing with a theoretical buying and selling and supply and demand projecting. I'm dealing a little bit more with like e-commerce and buying and selling goods online. So it is very interesting. Yeah. Summers is my middle name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a cute middle name.
It is. Yeah.
You're so summary. Like you're.
Well, thank you.
It fits.
Well, I was born the day before the solstice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it does really fit.
Yeah.
Should we go to the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Like speaking of like symbology, right? Like, I mean, this is a totally bizarre synchronicity, but like Tom Hanks happened to be like down under when he announced his diagnosis with COVID. And like Australia is just known for quarantine anyway. Like that's what like everyone always talked about, like, oh, if you go to Australia, you can't bring your dog or whatever, right? Like they keep your dogs in quarantine. The whole Johnny Depp and Amber Heard fiasco. But yeah, so like, I don't know, there was a lot to this, but like Tom Hanks posted about Rita beating him by 201 points in gin rummy while they were like locked up in quarantine, and he was typing with his Corona typewriter.
Yeah, it just takes that Corona typewriter everywhere he went.
Yeah. And Tom Hanks has starred in a lot of like very telling movies, but it just kind of lined up with like Inferno was released on Bill Gates' birthday, and Inferno implies Dante's Inferno. And the premise of the movie was like a billionaire who releases a virus to cull the population. I don't know, like Bill Gates, if we're going to get into simulation theory, right? Like a freaking Microsoft programmer has like is taking over the world, including the whole human genome. But so there was this that was just a lot of weirdness going on with it.
Well, you bring up Tom Hanks. Not only is he was so woven into the COVID narrative, he's like also associated with like some of the biggest Mandela effects too. Like they kind of follow him around, and the whole life is like a box of chocolates Mandela effect from Forrest Gump, and the Apollo 13 Mandela effect. Some of the most easily documented ones. The Apollo 13 one is actually one of the few examples that we have documented of a flip-flop of it going back and forth in real time that everybody caught. That's undeniable. So it's interesting. Like, do you understand these individuals? Like, what, lots of people have different views. Like, these are just like these are like Truman Show actors, and like they're getting like the Christoph is in the moon somewhere, and like, okay, do this, do that. Like, we've got this archetypal blueprint that's by Carl Jung, but you're all just going to kind of conform to this. Or do you think it's like something is like coming through them that they don't understand to make all this stuff sync up? Or how do you think about it all?
That's how I see it. Like, I know there's a lot of people out there online that think everybody's, they're just actors. Like they're getting backstage, and maybe some of them are, like, because there's definitely body doubles that come up on the world stage now and then. And they totally are laughing at us. But I kind of do believe that whoever enters into this realm, chooses to forget. And so they may be being used, and they may know that they're being a channel for something other than their own consciousness or their own soul. But like, I think that I feel like they are in on this game too, and they don't actually really know to the extent that they are being an actor. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, I don't know. I know I shouldn't trust any of it as far as making decisions about my own life, if that makes sense. Like, that feels very clear. And it feels very clear not to be overly obsessed with or impressed with or try to like insert myself in some way in this fame realm. But as far as like the actual mechanics of what's happening and who, I guess I try to maintain the optimistic perspective that everybody still has choice points in front of them and could totally shift. And, maybe some of these people are aware that I don't know. I imagine there's probably a lot of different things happening for different people at different points in time. And I like that you say they might even being used to a degree that they're not even aware of. And I think that probably is true.
Yeah, I guess that's my belief too, is they're being used to they're not, in my opinion, they're not all completely fake. Like, they're not all completely like putting on a silicone mask and like going out in the public every day. Like, I think they are real. I think they have a life, but they don't. On one level, I think we all get like played to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
We're all influenced by factors outside of ourselves sometimes, and we don't realize like to what level that is. Like, so that does question free will. But I agree with your summary.
It's good stuff.
And down on under being also called Oz. Like, that goes into the green, that goes into the Osiris, the god of the underworld, and just being like locked in a perceptual prison, like the rainbow, and being able to one day, like being a prisoner of the perceptual prison we live in. Prism.
Something I've wondered, and I don't know how you feel about this, is like, if I try to talk to somebody about all the symbology that's in our world, it's like very hard to give them a protocol for like, oh, here's how you figure it out. I mean, I think intuitively we all sort of grasp there are certain things that are in play if any of this is real. Like, we've talked about looking at certain dates on different calendars. We've talked about looking to astrology. We've talked about looking at aptonyms, archetypal imagery, et cetera, et cetera. But do do you have any desire to like try to like systematize this and turn this into some sort of like methodology to make it more respectable, or you're just like, okay, like, oh, I see what this is, that connects to my inner knowing, and that's enough? Because like I think about
I feel like it goes on and on and on and on. Like I could post every single connection, and then it looks schizophrenic, and people don't care mostly, right? There's so many people out there that they don't like. When I told my dad we were going to do this presentation, he's like, oh, that sounds fun. I'm sure everyone will be interested in that. Like they don't want to hear it. They don't want to think about it. They don't, most people want to just live their lives, right? They don't see anything wrong with this place or any need to like evaluate. They just want to like go on with their, so in terms of, I mean, I guess I don't know, like how many what is that? What did Q used to say? Like how many coincidences until something becomes mathematically impossible?
Yeah.
You could post all of them, but whether anyone cares is another story until they start seeing it for themselves and that they start having their own personal synchro mysteries. I don't know that they would take anything. I don't know. It's so exhausting. Like in terms of time and energy.
What's interesting, and I don't know how you feel about this, it's like, you know, it's like, if you were to talk, it becomes another language, right? And so if you were to try to talk to someone who spoke something radically different than you, like Swahili or something like that, and you're like, oh, let me show you English. Like it is so mind-numbingly difficult that you might just be like, oh, like let's, you know, I'm not even going to try. And I feel like that's kind of what's going on with the ability to understand synchromysticism. And then it raises this very interesting question for those of us who can see it, have taken the time to learn and listen and interact with each other and collaborate. If we like start to break away, like we're starting to form like a breakaway civilization, because it's like when you have linguistic gaps, you start to become kind of like another type of being almost. And that gets back into the whole conversation of like the stratification of souls in the afterlife that C.S. Lewis is talking about. Like, I don't really feel like I am still part. I don't know if I'm like still part of humanity anymore. It seems like.
Well, I think it goes in both directions. Like, you know, Nikki, you were talking about how the medicine makes us sick and the education makes us dumb. There is this purposeful like dissolution of intelligence that has been happening for several generations, at least in the culture I live in. That's really undeniable. And I think it has the exact effect you're talking about, Luke. It's like you struggle to grasp things to such a degree, like people write it off. But yeah, so I think it works in both ways. Like we're becoming like almost more like, it's like a different species. And then I know, Luke, too, you've talked about how technology in some ways kind of people who master technology in a way where they're using it and not being used. That also is a big differentiator as well. Like how many people are using these, even just search tools or social media, or, you know, we can talk about the AI, but it's really just a continuation of the same phenomena. How many people are using them as a crutch or like basically giving their own life force into that thing versus how many people are really using it to empower their own desires and like manifest their own will into the world? Those are all things that kind of fissure us into different groups. And I don't know if we come into this world at different levels. I suspect that is the case. I believe in reincarnation. So I do think people have like bundles of experiences prior to this particular time, whatever. But yeah, I suspect people do come in on like different levels, and it's not hierarchical. I don't think I'm better than people who aren't seeing the things I see. In many ways, their life is much easier. So, you know, I get it. Yeah, I guess I'm rambling at this point, but.
Well, I've been using, for my research, I use AI like a ton. It's totally changed my workflow. It's allowed me to accomplish a lot more. And I use it as a collaborative writer, specifically Grok. And I see like a lot of people like there's all this like fear mongering about AI, and maybe rightly so. I don't know, but I was so late to other technologies that really expedited my consciousness, like audiobooks and making content like this, et cetera, that like I never want to be like late to that again. Like I feel like if I had taken advantage of all those resources, like I would have woken up, I don't know, like 2007, like instead, and then but it like took like
maybe you just weren't ready.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing too. Some people use all these things. We all have access to the internet. There is no shortage of information about very meaningful and high impact events that to me very much reveal that we're being spellcasted upon. And yet most people don't recognize it. So
yeah. I mean, it'd be super interesting. I was talking to Nikki the other day about like the 100th monkey effect. And it's like, okay, well, maybe it's a situation where there's an initial sort of breakaway where like people like us are like able to read the signs, but then it's sort of, if we are tapped into the collective, perhaps that feeds back in and they start getting the download and they can kind of see what we see and we all take the step together. They're just kind of people who are at the front, which I guess is us and individuals that came before us, but then it kind of filters back into the aggregate. I don't know. I don't know if people are taking the steps forward. I see the Overton window moving on several subjects, but then there are other ones where people are just like bottomed out, they're dug in, and nothing's going to change it.
And that might be their path, and they might have a purpose in doing those things. Like we need practical people in this world. We need people who are like, you know, solid and steady. I remember during COVID, my best friend was pursuing a PhD and she was doing this whole thing to become like a dating coach. And I was like, that is so insane. Like the world is ending. How can you worry about people's like dating life and not worry about like the collapse of civilization, right? But like, God bless her because she kept pressing forward and she's following her dream. And like the world didn't actually end. And there are people that need help with dating. And so that like, that was my judgment. That was incorrect on that. I don't know where we'd be if we were all just like the whole world was like sitting here being like, you know, reading the synchronicities.
Well, it's true, right? Like, I mean, it's profoundly disqualifying, right? Like I can't, we talked about this in the Truman Show thing that Jordan and I did, like, you know, once you can't go back into your container. And like, I think about sometimes, like, did I give up too easily on teaching? Like, and I'm like, you know, could I have found a way to keep a lot of my opinions to myself that would have, and it just more and more just kind of keeps coming. The answer is obviously no. I would ultimately like the academic institutions have gotten increasingly radicalized, and some would argue so have I. And it's like this is just over. And if everybody had that experience that I did, where you pull back the veil and you see how it's all working, not to say that I know everything, but you get the glimpse that I get, like the society would completely break down because there's the attendant, like, you know, you're not ready to have that sort of view. I mean, it takes like, I would say it took like 3 or 4 years to kind of like recover and mentally stabilize after seeing that reality isn't what you thought it was, you know? And some people would argue I'm still not, you know, stable enough to do those sorts of things. But yeah, if everybody saw it like I did, you know, would anybody want to work in a hospital? Would anybody want to build the bridges that we need for transport? Would anybody, you know, want to work at the water?
I think two things can be true. Like the world would just be radically different, and I don't think that would be a bad thing. But also, I think, Nikki, you're right that that's not what everyone is here to do. And life gets a lot easier at minimum when I assume the perspective that not everyone is here to do the things I want to do. And that's cool. That like really takes the pressure off trying to persuade anybody or fit into any box or anything like that. And just like letting go of expectations that other people are going to see things the way you do. Because they just might not.
Yeah,
That's
and you set
fine.
yourself up for like frustration or disappointment when you like expectations on anybody for
Yeah.
anything.
All right, next slide.
Sure.
I would say let's try to I'd say we go for like 2 hours, maybe. I don't know. What we do, whatever. I might need a
A bio
bathroom
break.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we can
No
take a break too.
Yeah, up
Yeah,
to you guys. We could do all of it, or we could break it up at some point. Yeah.
It's how you feel, Nikki. I think we've got the time.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we can try to finish it and like maybe break up the video if that's easier. If we don't want to overwhelm people.
It's fine. We might as well just do it all at once.
Okay. Okay. So here was my next like WTF observation during COVID was just the rise in like cryptocurrency and like obviously you know me, like I'm into the words, and so just the term crypt being in crypto is like a tales from the crypt, and also like for a lot of the people on, at least that I observed, like they were very much into the XRP, which is from Ripple, and Ripple in itself has the RIP in it, and the Riddler was what really kind of like lured a lot of people because they were like, "Whoa, man, this guy's speaking in riddles. We better buy a bunch of XRP. It's gonna moon or whatever."
Moonshot is fascinating.
Oh, I haven't seen it. Is that the
No. I just mean the people were talking about like crypto's going to the moon.
Yeah,
Or like,
yeah. Definitely something there with like the moon and alchemical silver, but and also like cryptic, right? Like in terms of being locked into something or locked out of something, encryption. I think that's symbolic also of the underworld and like the labyrinth, the maze that we're
No, we're talking about living in like an encrypted reality with symbols. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that was just my next observation. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that.
No, but I'm glad you brought this up because I kind of forgot like how crazy everybody, like this subculture still exists. Cryptocurrency obviously still exists, but it was such a crazy time. And I don't know if it was just a lot of people were at home or, there was a lot of, I think, dissolution of the illusion of what our economy is. And a lot of people waking up to like, wow, like the economy is fake in many ways, but then recreating these other kind of divorced from material reality economies as an escape route. It's very interesting.
And also trying to get rich, right? Like people were trying to like make easy money in the market rather than like work hard or pursue their dreams or carry forward.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It felt like a trap, like people getting lured into the promise of easy money and then wasting their life away, like turning old and gray before it ever even became anything.
Yeah.
So that's all I had to think about crypto.
That's good. I don't know. My Twitter loaded properly. Jordan, I don't know if you want to bring up that angel meme that we talked about earlier. It's there in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Just to circle back, which I'm sure Nikki has something to say about that. I say circle back all the time, especially when doing this stuff. And
oh my god! I'm gonna add something to the chat then for the circle back because I have like a video.
Yeah. So this is the Anna Paulina Luna, which is interesting that we're talking about the moon. Her last name means moon, so that she's gonna be the one that posts this things about biblically accurate angels. This is for those who are following along. This goes back to our conversation about flatland and hyperdimensional beings interacting with our own. Like, that's great. Like, what a time to be alive. This is, I know everybody's like, I know like a lot of people are like, this is, our democracy is dying. It's like, oh, this is cool.
Our democracy is fake. I'm reading the Tavistock Institute right now. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Everything's fake.
Yeah.
Were you sending me something, Nikki?
Yeah, just for like if we get to that point in the presentation or not. I sent you guys the
Where did you send it?
oh, to Twitter. Sorry.
Oh, cool. No worries.
That
totally works.
It's a circle back. We can just go, like we can jump to that.
Yeah. Why don't we jump to that one?
Real quick if you want to, so that we can just like get that one.
Sure.
Since we're in the ain't no circle back, girl.
Ooh.
Let me see. Does it play sound?
Oh, let me.
I don't think we've ever done a video in here before. This is.
Circle back. I hate to disappoint you. Circle back. Circle back. That's an excellent question. Circle back. Circle back. I hate to disappoint you, but we will venture to circle back. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I often note I'm going to circle back. I hate to disappoint conservative Twitter, but I'm going to circle back on a number of things, as we often do directly. I'll circle back. Circle back. I hate to disappoint you. Circle back. Circle back. That's an excellent question. Circle back. Circle back. I hate to disappoint you.
All right, we got the idea.
Yeah. She did like a ton of every time she do a press conference, she'd be like, well, yeah, I'm going to have to circle back. Like she said it a million times. And that was going into the like I did a slide on it, but just like the wheel of karma and samsara or whatever is I felt like that was the message that the Matrix was kind of delivering to us right then, like when we got put with Sleepy Joe as our president and just kind of like cycling back on the wheel of karma. Like I think we went back a step if I'm reading the signs.
I think what it ties into, I think I saw what was so bizarre was the rise of the political influence of this. Is his name Mike Liddell, the pillow guy? What's his name?
Yeah, Mike.
He's the My Pillow guy, and then we had like the Sleepy Joe and the circling back, and like those who are awake and those who are asleep, et cetera, et cetera. Like how, like I don't know what I'm talking about, but like the story of like this, like the My Pillow pillows have to be so incredible. I don't know how you make like a fortune off just like a single pillow. Perhaps I'm just.
You have one. Let us know.
I mean, it's all right. It's all right. I mean, I recently came into acquisition of it, but the thing is, I don't know if you noticed this. Like, you and I are both children of the '80s, and like something that was like part of my '80s experience growing up. Although I was not like a big fan of it, but do you remember like how huge professional wrestling was in like the '80s, Nikki?
Yeah, I was not like, it was not interesting to me at all at that time. But now when I rewatch it, like clips and stuff, I'm like, oh man, there was like stories being told.
I know. Do you remember this wrestler called The Undertaker?
Oh yeah, because my daughter was on his softball team for two
What? Yeah, he's like the mayor of a town in Tennessee or something like that. His name's like Kane something. Or is that him?
Oh,
or I don't.
No, I'm thinking of his name's Mark. What's his name? And my daughter and his daughter played softball for two seasons together.
Right.
And yeah,
that's crazy. And I, just to tie this all together, he had a sidekick named Paul Bear, and he looks exactly like the My Pillow guy, Mike Liddell. And so, Jordan, can you pull up a picture of the Undertaker and Paul Bear, or just a Paul Bear and like Mike Liddell? And I'm just like, wait. So I got a guy who like puts you to sleep, and the Undertaker like puts you to sleep, and the Paul and it's connected to death, right? Like, and the fact that this is like a huge synchronistic figure like coming on the world stage. There you go. That's him. That's Paul Bear. Like, to me, Mike Liddell looks exactly like this guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure other people have seen this where they like have a side by side that Mike Liddell is Paul Bear.
He came out looking like I don't know if the internet made him look that way, but there was a picture of him recently where he looked exactly like Paul Bear, and it was around I think the time that Trump was giving speeches with the Undertaker or doing interviews with him.
Oh,
Trump was
yeah. Trump had like comes out to the Trump comes out to like the Undertaker theme song, like at his like at his like rallies and stuff.
Undertaker, and there was like some weird stuff with like the 86 number and his like the difference between the votes. Like I think there was a difference of 86 votes that he won by.
That's crazy. Like, how is this happening? How is this happening?
Yeah.
Jordan, in the chat, I have a article where people are like, "Oh, the internet's saying that Mike Lindell looks like the Paul Bear." If you can hit that and bring it up, just so.
Oh yeah, 6 Feet Under was the name of the podcast that they were doing together, or the name of the show.
What?
Yeah.
And so crazy.
Yeah. And Trump always has his hands in that.
Yeah, like this is like Mike Liddell like actually looked like this. He had his like the bags under his eyes for something like that. Like, I mean, it almost looks like makeup has been applied.
It does to me.
Yeah. I think the fact that Mike Lindell was a crackhead is very symbolic. It's also like Hunter Biden was a crackhead. The whole like Trump and Rosie O'Donnell thing started over Miss America using drugs and alcohol. And there's like Biden and Trump both do not drink. So there's some sort of like giant after school lesson being taught to, I think, America about like drug use, because RFK and his synchronicity that had to do with his addiction to heroin.
What was the synchronicity with RFK there?
RFK went around giving lectures on how he found God, and he said he found it through Carl Jung's synchronicity.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
When he was coming out of his heroin addiction was when that happened, and that's what he credits with his ability to overcome that addiction. So I think on some level, a lot of this, like the influencers in America being under the influence, a lot of it is kind of the Matrix is reflecting our own addictions back to us, our vices, our addictions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I don't know. I was going to go back into the amendments. The 21st Amendment, wasn't that the one that allowed drinking again, like overturned the prohibition?
Yes.
That's
21.
Right.
I think there's
1933.
A symbolic reason why the number 21 is so important, and why it's you in the alphabet, right? It's all about you.
That's interesting too. I didn't realize that's the 21st Amendment. Most of the country, I think, has the 21 drinking age.
Yeah.
If not everyone, through like the federal, whatever.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's crazy.
Oh, and the previous 18th Amendment was the nationwide ban. So you have that 1821. That's interesting.
Good point.
I don't know what to make of it, but
yeah.
All right. So where do we go from here? Mass. Yeah.
Is that where we were? Okay. Yeah. The whole mask thing, like there was just like so much like nonsense to that. Like so many things that did not make sense. Like you had to wear your mask, but if you were sat down in a restaurant, you could take it off. But if you stood up, you had to put it back on. Like there was just so much nonsense about the masks, and whether they were even effective. But like initially, masks were created for the dead to like navigate the underworld, or they were made for like those death masks, which that I don't know. That is such a bizarre phenomenon too. But that's kind of where I was going with the mask, and just that the mask is like our persona, the personality we put onto the world. So COVID was a time for a lot of us to either like stand in our truth and our authenticity, or hide behind a screen and make our opinions known only like anonymously, right? Express our feelings anonymously, or like stand in our truth and let our face be seen by the world.
Yeah. Well, and then you have all the AI like profile photos and people like, yeah, I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's a mask too.
Yeah, now we have like FaceTime and facial recognition and self checkout. I think we talked about that last week.
Oh yeah, check yourself out.
Yeah.
This is relevant. We talked about Vanilla Sky earlier. Something that kind of puts it back to the top of the line for me is that I don't know if it was when we did Think Tank together, and I was like, I've kind of always known that there's this connection between Eyes Wide Shut and Vanilla Sky because they came out roughly the same time, and Tom Cruise does like back-to-back movies where he's wearing a mask for a large part of those films, and I was like, this is very strange. Yeah. But then I realized that what I think it was through our appearance on Think Tank together that there's a linguistic combination of this too, because the original film that Vanilla Sky is based off of is called Open Your Eyes in Spanish. I forget what open is. Like, I think it's what is it originally, but I want to watch that as well. And so then we have Tom Cruise, and the cruise thing is huge. This cruise thing is not going away. I mean, but you have Penelope Cruz and Tom Cruise involved in all of this, and one is called Open Your Eyes and the other is called Eyes Wide Shut. So something synchronistic is like happening here that I want to explore even further, especially since I've kind of, a lot of people think, oh, Eyes Wide Shut is like about the Illuminati and all sort of stuff. Like, I think it might be more about actor-based reality. Like the whole ritual that, Tom Cruise's character goes through or witnesses or whatnot, like the devil figure, the red cloak, like it's like, oh, it's just a spoof. It was a fake. It was a nothing, because he's worried about his friends dying or the people that spoke up for him or whatever. Like, it very well could have just been a convincing stage play, the whole thing that he witnessed. And that's, it's just like, that's similar to what Truman goes through. So I think that's relevant to think about, when we contemplate different types of matrices.
Right. Good point. Excellent point. Yeah.
Yeah. The Dante death mask is very interesting. I don't know why, why would they want death masks? I don't know. It's something I've never really looked into.
Well, and that was it. Like in that movie, The Others, like death masks were a theme in that movie too. And so I think that's always like stuck out with me, because I told you that movie was like one of my biggest freakouts ever.
Yeah. All right. So what's next? I just out of curiosity, how many more slides do we have?
We are on 9. We've got 25.
Oh yeah.
Do you need a bathroom break?